Hello. This is your Captain Panic speaking, and welcome back to another Touchdesigner tutorial. So in the background you can already see and hear what we are going to do today. I will turn this off now to not let the sound distract me. Yeah, in the background you can already see what we're going to do today. It's a fully procedural spiderweb I built in Touchdesigner, which is something I've been looking for a while, and somehow I didn't know how to do it. And then I watched a Houdini tutorial, and suddenly it seemed very easy to implement this into Touchdesigner, and there we go. It's actually really simple and a really nice thing to do in Touchdesigner. So what I mean by fully procedural, it's real-time generated, and you can easily change stuff like the amount of cycles we're going. So like this, and you have an entirely new spiderweb. You could also reduce those again, also reduce the the copies of these lines, so you have less and it's less detailed. Yeah, so you can really easy play around with this, also have a different scale on different axes, and it's all happening real time. Amazing. And yeah, I also implemented some little audio reactivity to make it audio reactive, because it's nice and makes the whole thing more interesting. You could I don't know, have it more squiggly if you like, or I don't know, blow this up like this, or whatever you want to do with it. So that's also a nice thing to do. Then you could use this in many different ways. So in my opinion, this little pseudo 3D-ish look is quite nice, which I will also show. But you could also have it, I don't know, plain 2D-ish threshold kind of look. Also really nice. You could have it colored and or more plain without the little organic holes I really liked. So my attempt was to make it as organic and natural as possible. So I thought those little holes looked nice, but if you don't like them, you don't have to have them. Yeah, so I will show all of this, which is actually not that hard. We'll have a look at the audio reactivity and at the post stuff I added to make this even more realistic. So I will start Touchdesigner from scratch now, so we can start from scratch, and I will see you on my screen. All right, welcome on my screen, and now let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do is make a constant chop, which we later will use to control our amount of cycles and copies of the straight lines. I don't know how to call it, but you will know what I mean. So the first channel will be named cycles, and I will set this channel to 12 now. And the next channel we will add, so just hit the plus here, will be named copies, and we will also type something like 12 here for now, or maybe let's do 24 to have a different number and not confuse those. And then we will make a pattern. So let's make a pattern. And now for this pattern, we will set the type to Sign, which it already is. And then we will export the cycles from this constant onto our number of cycles here. So make the viewer active here, and then take the cycles and drag them on the number of cycles and chop the reference. Then, right now, this channel is called Gen1, which we don't want, so we head into the Channel tab and change this from Gen1 to something like TX, because this will be the value we will use for the X value of our SOP. But more about that later. And then I will just copy this pattern 1. So copy and paste. And in this pattern 2, I will rename the channel from TX to TY. And then we will change the pattern type in the pattern section to cosine. Yeah, we already exported the number of cycles here because we just copied this one. So that's perfect. And now we want those two patterns in one operator. So we will create a merge chop. And then we just connect TX at first, and then TY at second. Then, after this, we will make a math. Drag this over here. And then we will make another pattern. So make a new pattern chop. Please make sure you don't copy one of those, because in this pattern 3, we don't want the same number of cycles than we have here. So we don't want our constant reference. So please make a new one and not copy this one. And then in this pattern, we can keep the channel name like this. It doesn't matter. So we just change the type of the pattern to a ramp. So it just goes from 0 to 1 over the time. And we want to combine this 0 to 1 thingy to those patterns, because we want it to be a spiral. Because right now we are just making a circle. So if I quickly show this in a chop to SOP, where we can see what we are doing. So when I drag this in here, you can already see we are getting an error message because we don't have a channel TZ, which we need to have a 3-dimensional thing. But right now, you can see we created a circle. But we want this to be a spiral going from 1 to 0. So in order to do that, we will connect this pattern 3 to the math. And then we change the combine chops from off to multiply. By doing that, we are multiplying those two, so it gets our 0 to 1 connected. And now you can see we have a perfect spiral, which is one of the bases of our spiderweb. But now we want to get rid of this error message. And also we will add a TZ, just so we don't get the error message. And to do that, give us some more space. And then after this math, we will make another merge. And then we will just copy this pattern 3 and turn the type from ramp to constant, because we only want it to be flat. We don't want any transformation on the z-axis. So we will add this to this merge. And also, please make sure to rename this channel 1 to TZ. And now we are still getting the error message, which I don't get. Ah, yeah, that's because we didn't drag the merge chop in here. So let's make a null after this merge too, to close the network, and then drag this null in here. And now you can see error message is gone, but you can also see our spiral is flying now. And that's because our constant is at level 1, or at, I don't know, yeah, it has the value 1. So it is on 0.1 of our z-axis. And to get rid of that, just simply change the to range to 0 here, and then it just goes from 0 to 0. Yeah, cool. Now let's reset this view. To do that, you can just make the viewer active here, and whenever you lost your spiral, you can just hit H on your keyboard whenever you're in the viewer, and then it resets the view. Cool. Okay, now we build our spiral. Now we want to add the diagonal lines. And to do that, we will simply create a line sub, which we will then, so you can keep everything on default in here, and then connect this line to a copy sub. And now number of copies will be our copies we set here in the constant chop. So make the viewer active again, take the copies, drag it on the number of copies, chop the reference, and then you will have 24 copies, but right now we can't see them. And in our case, we want our copies to rotate with every step. So in this case, it's on the z-axis of the rotation. So, but with every copy, we move by 1 degree. In our case, we want those 24 copies to be evenly placed inside of the 360 degrees. So let's use our number of copies. So let's just copy this parameter. So right-click number of copies, copy parameter, and then paste it on the rotation of the z-axis. And then just type 360 divided by our parameter. And that way we have our evenly distributed lines. At least I think so. I never counted it. I'm not a math professor, but I think this is right. So please excuse me if it's not correct, but it looked fine. So yeah. Okay. Now we want to combine this spiral with our lines. And to do that, we will create a merge sub. So drag in the copy. And now you can see we added those two together. But in my opinion, those diagonal lines should be a little bit longer. So to make it look a little bit more natural, and yeah, I just think those lines are usually longer because they are connected to like sticks and stuff. So in our line sub, just expand the point B. So at the moment it goes from 0 to 1, and let's change this to from 0 to 3 maybe. So it's just longer. Cool. Yeah. Now we merged those two together, but they are just merged into one viewer, and in order to make them one single geometry, we need to use a join sop. Please make sure you take the join, not the joint, join. And yeah, I think that's fine. To keep everything on default for now. And let's have a look at this later if there are any errors occurring. Yeah, so now this is one geometry, but we still have not the same amount of points on our lines than we have on our spiral. And that's because this channel stuff is using like 1,000 points according to our channels. Like we have 1,000 samples, but our line only has 2 numbers of points. So it has 2 points, not 2 numbers of points. Oh, excuse me. And yeah, to resample this, so everything is evenly distributed, we need to add a resample after this sop. So now we have this resampled, but now you can see we need a lot more detail because now our lines are getting very, it's looking like a square, or yeah, not organic at all. So I chose to go with a length of 0.01, which looked quite nice in my opinion. But you can adjust this at any time, and we will have a look at this later again, so you can see it a little bit better as soon as we have a render set up. So let's come back to this later. Okay, now we will make a null to group it and to close this network, because now we want those perfect lines, like we have a perfect spiral, we have perfect straight lines, and we don't want that. And to get rid of that, we will bring in the audio reactivity and some displacements. And to do that, I chose to convert this SOP network into a top network, because I'm more of a top person. And I can think better when I see what I'm doing and not have SOPs or chops in the network. So I just chose to go with tops. So let's convert this, and to do that we will just make a SOP to chop, drag this in, everything can stay on default here. Then after this SOP to, we will make a chop to top, and in this chop to top, we need to make sure that right now we are just having one channel and it's monochrome, but we are having 3 channels here, so make sure the data format is not R but RGB. This can stay like it is. Exactly, okay, perfect. And then after this we connect this to a null, And now we will add some stuff in here, but we will convert this back into a SOP first so we can actually see what we are doing. So let's do the same but reversed. So let's make a top to chop after this. And then let's make a chop to SOP after this. And now we are getting another error message, and that's because our channels are not in this txty.tz format, but in R, G, and B. So just type in R space, G space, and B. And there we go. Now we have our perfect little spider web back. Cool. So now let's connect this one to a null. And now let's make our render setup so we can actually see what we are doing in the background. So take this output, so you have the little noodle, and then hit tab, make the comp, geometry, make a camera, which you always need in order for the render to see something. Then make a render top, connect this render top to a null. And now on this null, which will be our last thing on of the network, we will hit display. So now we see our little spider web. And now I want to have a better resolution. So in our render, I'm going with a resolution of 4K 16:9. And also I will use a pixel format of 32-bit float. And now we're not having any material on our spider web, so we make a mat, which will be a line mat. And then we drag this line material onto our geo and hit parm material. And now we can see our little spider web. In my taste, those lines are too big, so I went with a width far 0.5 and a width near of 1 in this setup. And so you changed this in the line material. And also I want my lines to be white and not gray. So in the line tab, I changed the line near color to white, and also the near, the line far color to white. Perfect. Okay. Now we can see what we will do in the next steps. So let's give us some more space between our tops here. And now let's make our first noise. So make a noise top. And in this case, make sure you have both inputs connected to the noise. So this is very important. Both inputs go into the noise. So first input, second input, both the same. And then turn down the offset to 0. And also turn down the amplitude to something really, really low. So maybe 0.01 is good for the start. And also I always turn off the monochrome, because this way our displacement goes into every direction, and when you have it mono, it only goes in 2 directions. Cool. So with the numbers, you can use whatever you like, I guess. So I kind of liked a quite high period, so maybe something like this. And also maybe a harmonics of 1 and maybe a period of 1.4. That's nice. But it's not moving at the moment, which we also will have a look at pretty soon. But first of all, we want to finish the final look and then animate the whole thing. So Now we have a quite big displacement going on, but I also want those lines itself to be a little bit squiggly and a little bit more rough and organic. So I chose to insert another noise. So insert another operator, take the noise, and now I will change the noise type to random, turn off monochrome, turn down offset, and then turn down the amplitude to something really low, like, I don't know. Maybe this is nice. Yeah, looks kind of good. And now we have those lines a little bit more squiggly. And now let's have a look at the resample again, because as you can see, we have like edgy lines here, which in my opinion is fine. But if you don't like them, you could go down with the length of your resample, and that way it gets more detailed. Yeah. So I will keep it the same because it doesn't matter to me that much. But if you want to do that, head over to the resample. And yeah, I will have this a little bit lighter, maybe even 0.003 maybe is nice. Yeah, I really like this look. And now let's animate this. So to do that, the first thing we will need is our sound. So choose a sound you like and drag and drop it into Touchdesigner. I'm just using my PPPANIK track, which is made by RAAYS, who's also known as RAAYS on Spotify, and you should definitely check Aaron's music. It's just great, and I am very thankful about this little PPPANIK intro track, which many people ask me every time what song it is, so check out RAAYS on Spotify. But you didn't hear the track at the moment, so if you want to hear your track in Spotify, you should add an audio device out and connect your track in here. So you might hear it. I turned down my desktop audio quite low, so I can't hear it. And also I will turn this off now because it's a little bit distracting in my opinion, especially when I'm recording. But you can keep it on. Okay, and then I will use the audio analysis from the palette over here. So if you don't see your palette, you need to hit this button over here, and then under the tools section you will find the audio analysis. Drag it in and then connect your track. In this container we need to set the kick active to on, and then for my sound I set the threshold of the kick to 0.06. This depends a little bit on your sound and how intense you want the kick to be detected. And now to make this a little bit more accessible, I will use a select because I really only need my kick and not all of those numbers. So I will just make a select and only pick the channel kick. Then after this kick, because now it only has 0 and 1, and we want this to go a little bit more smooth. So add a filter after this. And then I change the filter width to 0.1 seconds. Yeah, nice. And then I will connect this to a math. And then I will connect this to a speed. And this speed thing just counts the speed of this. I don't know how this works, but it works for me. So I like it. And then I will connect this to a null, which I will then call, I don't know, speed. And also maybe make a rename and call this speed. Makes more sense. Yeah, but right now, let's so basically that's our component which we'll use to animate. So make the viewer active here, head over to the noise 1 into the transform, and then take this speed, drag it on the z-axis of this noise, and chop the reference. And yeah, now you can see that it moves and it squiggles on every beat, but it also stops. And we want to have a regular movement, which then speeds up by the beat. And to do that, we will need to add a constant value to this speed. And to do that, I will just make a constant. Then call this, I don't know, no, keep it on channel 1. It doesn't matter. And then maybe type in, or let's call it speed. Or general speed. It doesn't matter. And then maybe use 0.25 and then connect it to this math and then combine the chops by add. So we have 0.25 as our general value, and then it gets sped up by our beat. So if you want this to go faster, you could increase this value. Perfect. And also, if you want this whole thing to speed up, you could add in the mult add section, you could just set this multiply to 2, and this way the whole impact is heavier. Cool. I will keep it on 1 now. But yeah, this is the audio reactivity. But we will add another thing to this. Because now we have this spiderweb itself, in itself, being squiggly and moving, but I want to add another layer of movement. And in this case, we are going into this chop section again and just add a noise, sop, which moves our whole geometry, which is very cool. And we will also export our speed onto this instead of the apps time, which is in here by default. So let's add our reference here as well. And this way, our displacement and our whole movement is more layered and more interesting, which is cool. Okay. Yes, now let's have a look at some post stuff in our render setup, or after our render setup, to give this the shiny 3D-ish look, and also to make it even more organic, which is my favorite word of this tutorial. So first thing we want to do after this render is add a blur, and after this add a threshold. And by doing that, in comparison to the look we had before, it looks slightly more organic because it connects our lines in a more organic way. So maybe let's set the filter size of this to maybe, I don't know, filter size 16 maybe. And then have a threshold, I don't know, maybe like this. So I will make it the same as I have in my reference file, just so I don't mix anything up. And I also set the soften here to 2.49. And also, just because I see it now, this little line over here is triggering me. But the little spider had to start somewhere, but definitely not up here. So if you want to get rid of this, in our pattern 1, you could just go, yeah, oops. Yeah, maybe set the period to something, yeah, like this. Yeah, just if you get triggered easily, make this. Now let's head back into this. Also, I want to have a different look on this. I want to be a little bit closer. So let's zoom in a little bit. Maybe like this. This also depends. So your threshold value depends a little bit on your view, because when you move more far away, you might need to adjust this levels here. But if you're more near, yeah, so please keep this in mind. And yeah, then after this, we will copy this threshold 1. And in the threshold 2, let's connect this. We will have a lower visibility of our mesh. So I will set, I don't know, like soften to 1.01 and a threshold of, I don't know, something like 0.6. So we only have those little droplets going on. And then after this, we make a composite, drag both of them in, and change the operation mode to difference. And by doing that, we add those little organic holes. So yeah, you can see what it does. So play around with those threshold values. Nice. If you don't like this whole thing and only want the lines to be more organic, use another threshold, set the value to something you like, and just use it like that. I will continue with this look. And then after this, I decided to go another round of blurring and thresholding this, just to make it even more round and organic. And I don't know, I went with something like this, and since I don't really like the super hard edges, I also set the soften to something like this, just so it's a little bit softer on the edges. And then after this, we will have a look at the 3D-ish kind of look. So in order to achieve this look, we will make a noise top, connect this one to the first input, so we have the same resolution and pixel format, then turn the output of the noise to just noise, connect this to our null, then add a displace after this. Now connect this threshold 4 to the displace and add a slope before. And then we change the strength of this slope to 4. And we go down with the displacement to 0.1. Also, because now we're getting really hard edges again, we can add a blur after this and set this blur to something like a 2. And now we have this really cool liquid translucent kind of look. And in my opinion, I don't really like this noise in the background. It can be appealing, but I don't like it. So I chose to do an inside and use this threshold as our alpha channel. And by doing that, we get our transparent background back. And when we add a transform here, turn on comp over background and make a background color with an alpha, so add 1 here. And then you can just, I don't know, have whatever color you like in the background. This is actually really nice, but now I want black, so you can see what we are doing. And yeah, if you want this to be colorized, you could make this noise colorful. So it gives you some random colors, random RGB colors, or you could add a lookup after this, make a ramp, and then, I don't know, add whatever colors you like and play around with them. So yeah, if you don't like the displaced look, you could also do it like this. As you can see, since we only have black and white here, for this ramp, we can only have like 1 color variation. But also, if you wish to have more colors, you could add a little blur. And then when you have more colors, maybe choose more different colors, maybe red and blue. And then copy and make a composite and copy those 2 together, maybe by an add. Then you can have, or maybe also a difference or anything. Then you have more different colors and can color this in more different ways. But in my opinion, I really like this glossy look without the colors. And yeah, that's it. That's the tutorial. It took a while longer than I expected because the setup is actually really simple. But yeah, if you want to have a more 3D-ish look, you could also move the camera a little bit, zoom in, zoom out, do whatever you like. This has a lot of cool ways and views and angles. Yeah, enjoy it and have fun with it. And I hope you learned something. As always, the project files of this setup can be found on my Patreon, where I upload all my project files from all of my tutorials and also my special files from the Merry Crisis specials over the years, so there's a lot to explore. And I appreciate every support, since it allows me to do what I do, which I enjoy a lot. So thank you for the support. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will listen to me another time. So stay creative, stay healthy, and stay kind. Bye-bye.